Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Kshitiz Maskey. I'm here. It's exciting to be here actually. So to see everyone share their experiences, to learn new things, it's really awesome. And I too am here to share a few of my experiences, my learnings about how to shape up your agility. Okay, so to start off with, project management is basically the same no matter what industry you are in. And this, I just don't say it. I say it out of experiences and like changing my career path multiple times over the years. So yes, on the bigger picture, basically project management is understanding the customer's need and then bringing up a team, empowering the team, and then basically providing a quality product. So yes, and then comes Agile. So Agile basically helps you enable this. So there are many methodologies that is used in Agile, right? So can anybody name a few? Scrum, Kanban, Lean. We learned one in the morning, XP. So yes, basically all of these has their own approaches, their own values, but ultimately the core principle of it remains the same. So yes, talking about all of these, I'm just going to take an example of one of these methods, which I learned in the very beginning while I joined the IT industry. Can anyone guess which one it is? Sorry? Nah, that's a bit too far. The Scrum Cycle. So basically, the Scrum Cycle is something most of us are very familiar with. We have applied it, we are planning to apply it, implementing it, learning it. So yes. Moving forward, the Scrum Cycle basically follows the 3-5-3 rule, which is basically the 3 roles, the 5 events, and the 3 artifacts. This, by the way, has recently been updated in 2020. The 3 roles are now called 3 accountabilities, and the 3 artifacts is now followed by 3 commitments. So the 3 accountabilities, it's basically the PO, the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the dev team, which by the way is also called the developers now. The 5 events, sorry. So the 5 events are basically the sprint cycle, inside the sprint cycle, which comes up to be the sprint planning, the sprint review, retrospective, the sprint itself, and then the daily scrum. The 3 artifacts would be the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and then the increment. So this is basically how I have been operating few of my projects. It's not exactly by the book, I would say, but I'll just walk you through how I have done it and the few of the experiences and stories that I have experienced. So first up is the requirement gathering. So the PO sits with the client, they understand what is required, they gather the requirements of it, and then they build a product backlog. They understand the product goal, the product vision, and build the product backlog, refine it, curate it. So next up what we do is we'll build the team that would be executing the product development. And then also comes the nitty-gritty things about the operations and all of that. So you got your team ready, right? So you got your team ready and you gather them together. And the next of what you do is you communicate the product vision, the product goals, and all the product backlogs. So yes, all of that is set. Next up, it's time to get your hands dirty in the development. So the first things first is the sprint planning. So this is one of the events that we talked about. Sprint planning is basically curating the sprint goal, what is going to be achieved, what is going to be the increment in that sprint. And then the team picks up the sprint backlogs, the refined ones from the product backlog, and estimates them, how much time it's going to take as per the capacity, right? So talking about estimation, I'm pretty sure all of us have done a few. So there are a few tools that we use. 3-point estimations, there's planning poker, and then there is affinity estimations, right? So we've done it all, and we've made those estimations. We've planned for the event. But a question to you is, how accurate have you been? Something to think about. So yes, the sprint plan is done. Now comes the actual core work. Here, the Scrum team, which is basically the combination of the three roles. They come together, they build the team. They do the actual hardcore developing. So inside the sprint, there also is another event, the daily Scrum, where people basically, the team comes together, talk about the progresses, and talk about what improvements could they be done doing. So yes, the sprint backlogs are then shown in some sort of boards, right? The tasks are picked up, tasks are assigned, tasks are moved. The development progress is shown over there. You try to know and try to understand how things are progressing and how things are going along the sprint. How are you guys tracking your progress? Anyone? Sorry? Project status report. And if you guys use Jira, it has its own reports over there. Okay, so next up is the sprint review. I personally feel this is like one of the most intense events. So basically your team is working day and night, they're doing all the hard work, and it's finally the time to show what they have done. It's basically the demonstration of what was achieved during the entire sprint. And the main outcome of this is the feedbacks. So just to make sure that everything is aligning with the product vision, everything is on par with the goals. So yes, deployment. Deployment is basically the increment that happens after the sprint. A short story over here. So everything is done, the team is making the deployments. It's just a day before the review time. And everything is working fine, all the tests are done. But right before the demo, something happens. Parkinson time I know. Things work out, everything was being done, tests happen, but then again something just crashes. First time I heard this porky one word, I was like, ke porky? Server porky banda ke to kasai server porky? So does your deployments goes as planned? Another question to think about. Next up is the retrospective. So retrospectives is really fun for me. It is basically, one of those events where you look back at the entire sprint and look and think, what were the things that went wrong? What were the things that was really good, awesome about it? And what were the things that you could improve on? And there's one of my team members doing the retrospective. So normally, what we usually do is, like I just mentioned before, what went wrong, what went well, what could have been done better. So this is the process that we follow, right? Another short story over here. So it was just after the lockdowns, I guess. Things were still remote, working was still being done virtually. So and one of those days, we had this sprint retrospective. So the Scrum Master comes along and then, sets up a time, 2 minutes. Okay, team, please point out what went wrong during the sprint. Pin drop silent. Something like it is right now. So yes, nothing comes up. And there's no way to say what happened. Another scenario, same situation. Points do come up, but then again, you want to know. So like there are a couple of points that come up, but you want to know why were they there? You want to improve on it. So you ask what happened. The Scrum Master asks what happened. Can anybody give extra details on it? Nothing. Still the silence. You can actually hear crickets cracking over there. So yes, maybe it's out of fear or it's out of boredom maybe. Nobody wants to be the one who wants to point out the elephant in the room, right? How interactive are your retrospectives? Okay, so after this, in another project, a twist that I did was like the 4L of Management 3.0. Anybody heard of it? So I brought a little twist over here. So basically what I did was, the 4L basically means Learned, loved, loathed, and longed. There is that additional learned part. So we gathered up the people in person. So yep, and we did it very old school. We used to draw the columns on the board, and then everybody was giving the sticky notes. So within that 2 minutes time span, all the columns had to be filled. The team came up. It was interesting. The team actually had to go up to the board and like stick their notes. And it was exciting. It was team building, and there was interaction. The change. All right, moving ahead. So the 5 events are done. Then we start working in cycles of these events. Then you finally come out with the product. Everything works well. We hand over the product to the client, right? Everything seems smooth. Yep. So you did everything as it was supposed to be by the book. You should meet the deadline. No issues should have come up. But has it actually ever worked that way? No experiences to share? Okay. I faced quite a few actually. So talking about the rabbit holes. We do everything as it's supposed to be, by the rules, everything. The standards are maintained, all the things are supposed to be done. But yet, we face so many issues. Today, we'll just go through a few of those issues and maybe point out a few things, how we can make it better. First up is requirements. I think this is something that we were listening to sometime before in the other session as well. So yes, requirements are, either too detailed or no detail at all, so vague that you can't understand what you're supposed to do. Another story, and this time I'll go out of the IT industry and go back to my hospitality days. So yes, there was a campaign, an event management for a wedding group. There comes a requirement where you're supposed to put 5 gypsy flowers, white colored, on top of every table. You wouldn't have to think anything about it, right? So you just do as you were told. 5 gypsy flowers, every single table, done. The work is completed. But then again, if you think of it, maybe 6 would have looked even better. Maybe if you kept more flowers or leaves, it would have looked even better. But you as a team, do you think about it? No, because you are giving very specific instructions. Another way, so flowers, tabletop, keep everything. You do as you told. You don't know what kind of flowers. It may be like artificial ones, it may be real ones, lilies, sunflowers, anything, right? So yep, we do it, we keep some lilies, make a nice decor. Individually, it looks really good. Beautiful tabletop decor. But when you look at it with the rest of the decor, everything else is retro. It just doesn't match up. So yes, so which either means that the requirements are either too detailed sometimes, that the team don't have space for creativity. Or at other times, it's so vague that they're confused. They don't know what exactly to do. So can we find a sweet spot in between? Yes, and it's called shaping. So shaping basically means, a small group of senior people works with the client and comes together, understands what the deliverables will be, and then, works out the details in the adequate number amount. So you have enough details where you know what to do, how to do it. But then again, it gives the team enough space for creativity to find out the actual details required. To enable this, one of the things that we use is the fat marker sketches. Anyone has ever done anything like this? Okay, so this is one of the things that my team did. But before I go ahead with that, I'll tell you another story. So someone comes to you and asks for directions. You verbally tell out the directions, right? The person does not understand. What do you do next? Sorry? Nice. Let's say it wasn't the era of Google Maps. You don't have your mobile working. True. You ask people around, or either ways, or otherwise the alternative is You take a pen and paper, you sketch, something that you normally do. So you say which are the no-go roads, which are the main landmarks, how long it's going to take, which is the alternative route, right? So fat marker sketches is also basically it. As you can see in the diagram, you can see that bad written over there, which is basically the no-go, the list of things that is required, the flow, and you can have a rough idea of what it's going to be. So yes, there's still detailing left to be done, but then again, a rough idea is there. So shaping would basically mean you understand the product, you set your appetite, the solution to it, what are the risk factors involved, what are the technical depths involved, and then what are the no-goes, what are the limitations. Next up is the estimations. So you thought through of all the details. You planned it, you know your velocity, everything is provided and divided accordingly. Sometimes teams, what they tend to do is, give story points and then think of it in hours, calculate it in hours. So, they then think, what if the given story point is not enough? So they start keeping buffer time. And then one buffer time, two buffer time for different requirements. There's a whole lot of buffer time over there, just expanding your time frame. And then also come the changes, the feedbacks, which also affects your estimations, right? So yes, ultimately what happens? Extensions. Felt it? So how about we reverse the process of estimations? And you must be wondering, what do I mean by that? It's basically setting up your appetite. So normally what we do is we take a chunk of requirements and then we decide how much time it's going to take based on the requirements, based on the things on what you have to do, the integration and all of that. Instead, let's reverse the process now. Let's keep a specific defined time frame. So the time frame should not be too long enough that you don't know where the end of the road would be. But then again, it should be short enough that you can actually roll out a valid product. So you define the time frame and then you scope out the requirements accordingly. What can be done? Because man, work can be big, right? From very simple to very complex. Developing a simple chat system, it looks very simple, but it can be one-on-one to complex, which includes all the voice calls, video calls, and all of that. So deciding on how much you do based on the time frame. So yes, time bounded with risk address, what you should be doing, if it fulfills the requirement or not, that would basically be shaping. The question you're going to ask is, how much time do I want to spend in this? All right, moving forward, the third one is team ownership. So once we start working with our projects, what happens next is we break down the tasks, requirements into individual tasks. We assign it to the various people in the team. They start picking up the tasks, they do their work, right? They are assigned work, they do their work, everything is being done as per what has been assigned to them. Do they know in the bigger picture what is needed to be done? Do they know about the product? Sometimes this just might get lost. So yes, I did my part. Front end ले तो गरे आयो, तर अब back end ले गरेन म के गर्नु त? Test गरेन हामीले त build गरे आयो त. So sometimes those kind of things happen, and even everybody is doing their part. It could just be like everybody is working on different features though. In the end, one feature is not complete. So how can we bring back accountability? Assign projects and not tasks. So basically, you gather up your team, you know their expertise, so trust them, believe in them. And out of experience, I'm saying this, it makes a huge, huge difference. So basically, what would happen is now they're going to own up the project. They would come together, gather up, and They're going to discuss what is going to be what's required to build it, what's required to make it better. So they're going to think of the project as a whole. So initially, like I said, everybody is doing different things. Things are being rolled out, but it's not just one feature that's being rolled out. Nothing tangible can be seen. So lots of things are being done, but nothing is really done. Instead, if you do it this way, so teams would be picking up tasks, they would be discussing with each other, and they would be rolling it out one by one in a faster pace also. And then there comes the thing called optimizations. How many of you have felt it that like when you want to do some optimization, some betterment for the product, one little feature, the team feels like it's an additional task that has been assigned to them. But yes, if you take it this way, they themselves would figure it out. Maybe let's do this. We still have some time left. Maybe we can incorporate this little changes. We can, make better scoring standards so that the product is better. And they won't feel like changes or additional tasks anymore. Next up is progress tracking. So yes, we are doing our work, we have to track them. We have to know what the status is, how far along the milestones are we. So we have to make reports, graphs, all of those documentations has to be maintained. And we do it, we spend days doing it. But a small change comes along, and you have to do it all over again. You have to maintain all of those documentations all over again. So what if we simplified the process and made it more visible? So projects are like hills. Here you can see a small hill over there, and it's divided into two parts, basically the known and the unknown. All projects are similar. There are two parts. At the initial first phase, where the start button is, so that's where you're still figuring stuff out. You know what you have to do, but then again, all the detailings are left. So once you start figuring things out, then you start moving the features up the hill. And more features, more integrations, what else you do? You need to do, you figure out the details, the mock-ups, and all of that is done. All the details are figured out. You're on top of the hill. So yep. After that, the only thing remaining is full-on, full-speed execution, going down the hill on the other way. So having that, what happens is like, not only the team members would be moving the tasks up the speed, and like they would be knowing where they are. It gives them a sense of accomplishment while they're moving the stickies up and down the hill. But also, you can have the overall picture of the project. Not just 1 week or 2 weeks or just a sprint maybe, a week cycle maybe, but you have the entire overview. And when a feature or something is stuck somewhere, you can just go to the person who is looking at it and talk to them. You don't have to disturb the entire team about it. So this is something that we did, and my team really loves it. So it gives, like I said, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of motivation, small wins like that they call it. Next up, change requests and feedbacks. These are inevitable, happens, comes up, and we all want it to. Maybe it be the client, the PO, even the dev team, everyone. We want to deliver the best product. We want to make sure that everything is optimized, has the best performance. So, there's always going to come up that question time and again, especially from the client side. Can we add this one small feature? This optimization would have made the performance so much better. You're thinking about it. So yes, you consider one, another one comes up, and another one comes up. It's for the betterment of the product, right? We would want to obviously do it. And as you keep on considering those, ultimately what happens, the list goes on, and boom, the time has been slipped away again. So what if you focused on the trade-offs? Scope hammering. Sounds like a crazy word? So yes, basically what this means is, previously we had defined that like there is going to be a time frame and you're going to know how much work you're going to do in that time frame. So you keep that in mind and consider that like if things don't roll out during that time frame, it's not going to go out at all. Sounds a bit harsh, but that gives that risk factor to the team. Then the team would focus on the must-haves, what is needed to be done, what is more important. That focus will always be there. That being said, the team always, from the very beginning, tries to maintain the standards, the coding standards, do their own test, and all of that would be maintained from the very beginning so that you actually have the quality maintained. And the QA can like take care of all the edge cases. The tiny little creatures called bugs that crawl up, at all the wrong times. You're about to send it to production, something comes up. You test everything, you send it to production. Podkins of Fairy, time and again. So you know what the team does? They leave everything that they are doing and move after fixing the bug. So somehow we all have it in us that like bugs are very important and everything else should be left aside, no matter how small it is or no matter how big it is. Yes, there are going to be exceptional cases when it's a fatal thing and it's a crisis thing and you do actually have to leave everything and focus on it. But at other times, maybe you should not be so much after killing the bug. So what to do? Bugs are important. You have to fix them. I'm not saying it's not. But what if we focus on the bugs separately? Get a bug smash going. So basically, what you can do is, separate a day or two from your week cycle and then focus completely on fixing the bugs. This way, it can also be like a scavenger hunt. It would be something fun, and all the bug fixes that has been like long due would be fixed. Another one of the cool things is the cooldown period. So yes, cooldown period is basically something that you can organize after your working cycle. So where the team can slow down their paces and focus on the main important things like the optimization, the bug fixes, and also plan for the next phase. Things are going to align up more. So saying all of that, are you guys wondering what the hell am I saying? Are these just ideas or is it even legit? Do I make sense? So yes, there actually is a framework for this. And it's called Shape Up by Basecamp. So guys at Basecamp, they were building their software and they thought what would be the most optimized way that they could use their daily operations, their production. So yep, after trial, error, and iteration of 15 years, they came up with this framework. And I'm not saying that like this has to be the way it is. These are just a few of the things that I picked up and which worked for my team. And even you guys can take it as a guiding light and enhance your process. That's all from my side. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.